evening, or morning, or afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Prem Panicker, and with me is my friend and colleague Faisal Sharif. And this is Sport and Pastime, a weekly podcast where we will look primarily at cricket, but occasionally wander off into the much wider world of sport. Hey Faisal, long time.
Hi, Prem. So good to see you. It's wonderful. All
Pleasure, man.
memories coming back of Rediff when we didn't have social media.
Yeah, I know we didn't have social media, we didn't have, yeah, quite a lot of things, but multicam setups, all of that.
Yeah,
So you're in America. Are you following the cricket?
absolutely. That's the only thing I've only done all my life. So yes, of course, wherever you are, you can't escape it.
Cool. So what are we talking about today?
So of course, the Champions Trophy team has been announced. The Indian team. Uh,
Yeah,
Not too many surprises. But I think the bigger picture is that once we discuss the team, I think I really want to discuss with you about this new diktat that's come from the BCCI for the players, and it's shocking. I mean, all these years that we've reported, I haven't seen anything quite like it, and yeah, just it's unbelievable what's
yeah, I know.
happening.
One of my friends texted me. I hadn't seen the news at that point, and one of my friends texted me saying, "So the Indian batsmen perform badly, and they've sacked the wives," which which seems to be, yeah, it's as good a take as any. But the Champions Trophy, yeah, like you said, not too many surprises. This is pretty much the same squad that we had for the ODI championship in 23.
Yeah, barring Surya,
Not,
barring Surya, I think
yeah,
yeah,
Surya is not here, but more or less the same sort of composition. And they clearly are going in with probably four regular batsmen, one wicketkeeper batsman, which will probably be Rahul, unless they want to have Rahul and Rishabh.
yeah,
Then they have four all rounders. They'll probably pick three
yeah.
from Hardik, Jadeja, Aksar, and Sundar. And then the regular bowlers are Bumrah, Shami, Arshdeep, and Kuldeep. Not much to quarrel about, but it's on the sidelines that I found something odd. Uh, During the press conference, Agarkar was specifically asked about Karun Nair, who's having the Vijay Hazare Trophy of his or anybody's dreams.
Yeah.
Averaging 750 is like insane, and insane is the word that Gautam Gambhir used. So here's the thing: Gambhir is asked why Karun Nair is not in the side. Gambhir's response is there are only 15 slots, and this is a provisional team. By the way, you have to submit the final team
Right.
on the 11th of February, I think. So Gambhir is asked, and Gambhir says there are only 15 slots. How many people can we fit into the team? Which sounds a bit like railways reservations, but even ignoring that, see, the thing is, you said you wanted to talk about the BCCI diktat, and this will come up during that time. One of the things that they're saying is if you're available, you have to play domestic. Great. So Karun Nair is performing in domestic, and clearly his performance has no value.
Yeah.
Ironically, at the same time, a question is asked about why Sanju Samson is not part of the team. The answer given for that is he didn't play Vijay Hazare. Now, that's a whole other story in itself, which reminds me of the time that we used to spend trying to unravel this kind of nonsense. Sanju Samson tells the Kerala Cricket Association that he is available. The KCA says, sorry, we can't pick you because you didn't attend the camp.
Hmm.
And then it turns out that the camp was not mandatory in the first place. So then the KCA comes up with another excuse. Net, what happens is Sanju Samson doesn't play Vijay Hazare. And the national selectors don't consider Sanju Samson because he didn't play Vijay Hazare. Now, how you try to make sense of this and the larger question of what is the point of you insisting on players playing domestic? And I believe that players should play domestic, not just for form, but more like in domestic cricket. If you have to bowl to a Virat Kohli or a Rohit Sharma or a whoever, KL Rahul, Yashasvi Jaiswal, whatever, or if You are facing up to a Bumrah, a Shami, and all of that. You really know how good you are. So yeah, they should be playing domestic. But if your performance in domestic has absolutely no say in whether you're picked in the team or not. For instance, Abhimanyu Ishwaran is averaging about the high 40s, early 50s
Yeah, he's in fantastic form. He's in fantastic form.
form. Sarfaraz is averaging over 60 in domestic. Both of them were part of the Australian squad. Neither of them got a chance. So, what are you going to do with domestic performance? You're telling stars that they should play domestic. Does it have any value at all?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think a lot of the focus is also on IPL now. That if somebody performs well at the IPL, then they get a chance in any format teams. I mean, earlier you remember Piyush Chawla came into the reckoning because he got Sachin Tendulkar, I think in one of his earlier games, and suddenly he was in the limelight, and it was a domestic game. But now I think that's not where the focus is. I think it's more about IPL, how well you do at the IPL, and if you do well there, then suddenly on the reckoning. And that's not a criticism of the IPL because we got Bumrah from the IPL,
Yeah.
so no complaints about that. But uh, I just think that it's getting a bit too much now. If you look at this squad and the one that went to Australia, there's a bit of tinge of purple. I won't say anything more. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harshit
It's more
Rana,
than a.
Q.
Yeah. To be fair, Harshit is only supposed to be a support for Bumrah because Bumrah won't be playing the first two ODIs against England. So he'll be
Correct.
there. But yeah, I mean, also the thing is, anyway, one good thing is that they have picked Arshdeep, which is a good thing
That's a very good
because
thing. Yeah.
India does need the left arm option. Otherwise, it is much of a muchness as far as our quick bowling is concerned. So probably it'll be Bumrah, Shami. I don't see you're playing in the UAE. I don't see them going in with three quicks plus Hardik Pandya.
Yeah, that'll
That
be too
seems,
much. It'll be an overkill.
yeah. You're,
Yeah.
you're not going to get those kind of pitches. By the way, are you going to cover the tournament there or are you stuck in the US?
Well, I'm stuck in the US. I was hoping that I could. Let's see. Might be a surprise.
Okay, brilliant. We'll
But
do a
like you
podcast.
were saying, yeah, like you were saying about Ashdeep is the same with Yashasvi Jaiswal. In the top
Yeah,
six, he's the only left-handed batsman they have, other
he is,
than
and he's
Rishabh. Yeah,
probably the one batsman who's not likely to play, no? Because they'll
because now
open
Shubman is
probably
the
with,
yeah
yeah, Shubman and Rohit, followed by Virat Kohli at three because he comes in at three in white ball cricket,
yeah
followed probably by either KL Rahul or Shreyas Iyer.
yeah. But I'm very
And then
happy that
you'll
they've
have,
named Shubman as the vice captain. I think that's a very good move, and I think that has Ajit Agarkar written all over it.
and it'll work if Shubman actually starts, finding his. I don't think it's a problem with his skill sets. He is a superb batsman to watch, but somehow he just seems to give it away. On the Australian tour, what bugged me was three times you don't get out to half volleys three times at the international level in one test series.
Yeah.
And even the other shots weren't actually shots that he should have been playing. He just sort of seemed to give it up. Hopefully, all of that will work. But enough about the Champions Trophy. You mentioned the BCCI diktat. Which one were you referring to?
This whole thing of since the Australian debacle, they've now come up with this big diktat which talks about uh, how much luggage you can carry now with you. It's stuff I've never heard of, and we've been
Yeah,
covering for so long when the great Sachin Tendulkar and everyone else were at their peak. Uh, Excess baggage was never an issue. I mean, I have never
yeah,
heard that before, but I must tell you where it's coming from. So there is one really good top batsman in the Indian team who usually has 24 to 25 pieces of luggage to Australia
brilliant.
and anywhere else he goes. So I think that's forced them to suddenly wake up and say that these are really crazy logistical nightmares because within Australia they were traveling also on charter planes, small planes.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't put on 24, can't come from one player.
one
That's
player. Yeah,
and the same player apparently has an entourage of eight. which includes the chef, security, and the nannies and what have you. You know.
Entourage of eight, where again the BCCI is expected to do the logistics,
Yes,
booking
yes.
them in the same hotels, same flow, all
Same
of that.
flight,
Yeah,
same flight. I mean,
same
so now
flight.
if you got
Yes,
it, you got a team of 16, 17 with the support staff goes up to 2025,
20.
and you got to put
Yeah,
another 6, 7 in. I mean, that's
for
crazy
one person.
for one person. For one
Yeah.
person.
And there are other, as far as I know, there are other star players who also have their own entourages. Maybe not that big,
Yeah.
but yeah, three, four people accompanying them: personal stylist, personal chef, uh,
Security, security. I mean,
security. Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, you have people trying to, you have BCC officials now trying to get through the security guy because he's got a gun on him. So at the
yeah.
airport, that's another challenge, to get all those things going. It's really crazy. What's happening is unbelievable.
But aside from that luggage thing, and also, the thing about players traveling separately with their families. Family is not allowed to be there for more than 14 days in a 45-day tour and all that. Frankly, you know what? I don't have too much of a problem with that. Uh, I don't think that the wives are to blame for the fact that these guys, uh, didn't bat, didn't score runs, didn't take wickets. That's not the fault of the families. But yeah, I can see where it can be a distraction. Uh, I think you watched this at somewhat closer range, and some of the instances that probably prompted the BCCI to take these steps, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. I think what happened after the 23 World Cup, and of course, they followed it up with the 2024 T20 World Cup Championship. It's just like because you're winning, nobody really wants to change anything. Nobody wants to question. But that's always been the problem with the Indian team, that when they get to the top, they believe the task is done. And that's the difference
Yeah.
where India and Australia are. Australia, when they get to the top, they realize the tough part is started now. That we got to stay there, and that's when you become, from a good team to a great team. And that's where India just keeps always messing up. The BCCI and the Indian team, they always keep messing up. They don't know how to keep staying there. Of course, having said that, they've been there at the top. I mean, 23 was a fantastic year for them, and then 24, part of it till they won the T20 World Cup, was fantastic. But I think it just got out of hand. Now, really, the big question is that how did we get here? How did we get to a point where a cricketer, where a player who's in the 11, and I'll give you an instance in the Pune test where India was losing. I think it was within 3 days. I think it was a game
Hmm.
when Washington took seven and then
Yeah.
Santner took seven. I mean, one of the top batsmen in our team left the ground. There were 2, 3 wickets still. India was going to lose that game, of course. But I mean, you don't walk away like that. I've never heard of it. I've never heard Sachin
Yeah.
Ganguly or Dhoni walk away saying that, I got to go catch another flight, so I'm leaving, and you walk away from the dressing room. That's not on. That's not good for team spirit.
Yeah, but I want to go back to something that you said in passing. How did we get here? And so right now, the BCCI, and by BCCI, irrespective of what designation he holds, by BCCI we mean Jay Shah.
Yes.
But the BCCI now is supposedly cracking the whip, which is what social media keeps talking about. They're getting tough with the players, all of that. So this didn't happen overnight. This has been going on for years. Players doing what they feel like. There's another clause in that policy document, as the BCCI calls it, which says you can't shoot for your private brand endorsements. It also says that you have to be made available for the BCCI endorsements, by the way,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
which is basically making you captive to the board's commercial interests, and also telling you that you can't take time out for your own commercial interests. I don't know how the players are going to respond to that,
But I
but
think it's only fair, Prem. I mean, the BCCI has contracted them. There are certain days and certain amount of time that they have to give to the BCCI, because of which they're paying them. It's a purely business transaction, and there's nothing wrong with the BCCI asking that of them.
fair enough. My question still remains: what were you doing all these years? This situation didn't happen with the Australia tour. It didn't happen with the New Zealand tour. It's been, to the best of my knowledge, it's been going on even before COVID. COVID put a halt to some of these things, but even there was some travel and things like that. And post COVID, it just it just became a thing that players were doing their own thing, and everybody knew it. Everybody in the establishment knew it. Everybody who's on the periphery, like we are, we knew it. Why did it take a defeat to do something that is this obvious? Like you said, I mean, we've covered some of the greats in Indian cricket, and covered Indian cricket for quite some time between the two of us. This is the first time I'm even coming across things like this where players dictate and the board just says, yes, boss.
Yeah, I think the last time it must have happened was when Azhar was captain and he used to get Sangeeta on the team bus. But when Ganguly came back,
Yeah,
when came became the captain, he just put an end to all of it. Family couldn't travel on the team bus, and he really kind of he Rahul and Sachin together, Anil Kumble and all those guys, they really cracked the whip, got a sense of team spirit. They became really disciplined in that sense. But it's gone beyond. I mean, this is the real Nawab period of Indian cricket for the top players. I mean, you've always had one Beckham in the team, throwing his weight
yeah,
around, and you could deal with that. But now you've got five. Like, there are five players in this team who have personal chefs. I mean,
right.
it's all good that you have to have, you have to have a certain diet, and I agree with all that. But five chefs, I mean, it's a bit much. I mean,
And the problem I noticed, both on social media and elsewhere, there was some commentary about, look, these individual players have been given their own dietary requirements, and therefore they need private chefs and stuff like that. What is missing from that argument is two things. One, whatever your individual dietary requirements are, the hotel you're staying in is perfectly capable of meeting them. It's not
absolutely,
like the chef. Yeah, I mean, if you have to have pasta, so can the hotel chef make the pasta.
absolutely.
I'm using pasta as an example. But the other thing is, if you have a private chef and you have five of them traveling with the team, you have a hotel restaurant where there is a regular service going on, and at the same time, there is an area that is cordoned off to prepare food for the teams. And within that, you have five chefs coming and taking over parts of the kitchen for their own individual requirements. It's just insane. And it's not, what is surprising me is not that they've put a stop to all this. What is surprising me is how they allowed all this for so long.
I think
And
there's a bit of, I think a bit of corporate interference is also happening, Prem, if you understand what I mean. That these
yeah,
are players who are really, really important for the IPL owners. And, some of the IPL owners are really, really big in this country. And,
yeah,
they have this no one can touch me feel. I mean, I won't take names, but there's a commentator who's now, because he criticized one of the players, one of the top players, he's not going to be doing commentary for any
this
of the India
is
matches.
this was during the fag end of the Australia tour, right? The criticism.
Yeah,
No,
and
actually, yeah.
no, before that, much before that, much before that.
Okay.
So, I mean, that kind of interference is unheard of. I mean, you've had commentators criticize the Sachins of the world and Saurav Gangulis and everyone else, but
Yeah.
the interference is crazy because it's all become one little ecosystem which is ruled by a few people now. You know, we can very well take Jai Shah's name and BCCI, but I think the big corporate power that's coming to cricket now, it's never been this powerful before. Never ever.
Yeah, it hasn't. Yeah. And that's largely down to the IPL, like you said. I was also, when you mentioned the seniors who cracked the whip, you mentioned the name of Kumble, and I was thinking, this is exactly why they got Kumble out of the coach's job. If you remember, the complaint against him was he's a disciplinarian, as if that's a bad thing.
And you know who the
Uh,
captain was at that time?
yeah, I know. The captain, and I think I have a fair idea of who the players were who backed this whole demand for Kumble to be kicked out. But yeah, it also brings up the elephant in the team dressing room, right? Virat Kohli. Uh,
Absolutely.
the last time I wrote about him, I got some flack and some sort of positive comments saying, at least you're calling it out. I still don't understand why we don't see the difference between celebrating a player for his all round achievement through the course of a career versus taking a good hard look at him at a particular point in time and saying, boss, your form is gone.
Yeah. And I
And
must bring in our old friend Harsha Bhogle into this. He's made a very telling comment, which I wholeheartedly support. He says, whatever else you do from this document that you have, but just players having marketing and PR companies is a real no, and you know where it is aimed at. Because if you've seen, you remember a test with England in Wankhede, and I think Sachin was castled, and Times of India ran a headline called Endulkar.
Oh
And we
yeah,
are talking about Sachin Tendulkar, the greatest of the greatest.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, he was not spared, but with Kohli, there's just, even when he gets out, he does something else. It's always somebody else's fault. The ball kept low, or it was an unplayable delivery for anyone. It's never his fault. It's unbelievable.
yeah.
It's never his fault.
Actually, one of the most amusing things for me during this Australia tour was this sequence. What would happen is a wicket would fall, Virat Kohli would walk in, the commentators would become ecstatic about the reception that he was getting from the crowds and how everybody was chanting Kohli, Kohli. He would take guard. The commentators would almost say that is the most brilliant guard taking I have ever seen. I mean, then he would defend a couple of deliveries, and immediately it is Virat Kohli looks determined. He's due for a big one. We've been hearing this since 2020, and in these 5 years, three times he's had a big one. His average is plummeted by, I don't know, 20-25%
Oh yeah, yeah. If
from
you
the
look at
from the heights.
Absolutely. If you look at the time when he was, they were in the Fab Four with uh, Williamson and
Root and yeah,
Root and Smith, and he was head and shoulders above. He was like with 2700s, way ahead
yeah,
of the pack. I think the next guy who followed was 25 or 2600s, and then comes 2019, and then COVID, and then wrong phrase to use, but he's lost his edge. You know, he's just lost his
yeah.
edge.
Un- Unfortunately, the bowlers are finding it. The bowlers are finding it with regularity. Again, one of the standout moments of the Australia tour was, if you remember, there was a question asked of Scott Bolland after he nicked off Virat. And Boland said, "Yeah, we figured out that he tries to play a few deliveries defensively, and then he goes searching outside the off stump. And in the next innings, Boland took him out exactly with that. Made him defend to a few deliveries on the off stump, bowled one outside the off stump. There's the nick, and there's Kohli gone.
Yeah.
And suddenly there is silence in the commentary box, and then the next innings, the whole thing starts all over again.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's when you remember, Sachin Tendulkar and that innings he played in Australia when he didn't drive and still got a 240 plus.
Yeah, 240.
You know.
Yeah, that famous cover drive that he cut off. In fact, that innings was repeatedly invoked during this Australia tour, saying, "Will Virat Kohli cut out?" But cut out fishing outside the off stump. How the hell do you do that? That's almost it's a reflection. The thing is, you can't sit and watch television and figure out whether a batsman's physical abilities are declining. But I swear, I think that there is something, a very fractional impact on his eyesight. Because, see, it's not like Kohli never used to play deliveries outside the off stump. He was
Yeah,
famous for those cover drives that he played on the fifth and sixth stumps. Uh, and he was always in control of that shot.
yeah,
The reason why is because he was moving into position early. He had his bat in the right place at the right time, and he was always middling them, almost invariably middling those shots.
correct.
Today, you notice the bat is coming in later, and that is the bat is still on the move when the ball is getting to him, and he's nicking off.
Yeah, that happened a couple of times in Australia. Like he was trying to
Yeah,
take his bat
and
out of the way, and
yeah, there was that also. He was trying to take his bat out of the way. He was late. He was bringing his bat forward. He was late, and
he
the
was late.
ball was actually hitting him on the side before the bat had fully
Yeah,
come into the shot. All of that argues that the eye is gone, and I mean, when we say the eye is gone, I can't read what is on the screen right now. But at this level of cricket, you're talking of, if anyone is bowling over 135, in the time that it takes you to blink, the ball has gone past you. If you
that's
blink
true.
at the time of release, the ball is gone.
Yeah,
So within that millisecond, a fraction less of your eyesight going can actually cause these kind of problems. And I seriously don't know if these things are being tested. But what What I'd like to know is, does Indian cricket at any point have a plan for how to phase out players once they've reached their use by date?
Yeah, I think that's always been their Achilles heel. They've never been able to do that. Never ever. I mean, Virat Kohli, without doubt, for me is the probably one of the best one-day batsmen in the world ever. And for India, he
Sure.
easily be on top, on par with Sachin possibly. But they just always struggle to phase. They're just so scared of touching a super, one of those top batsmen or one of those greats, that invariably they've just let it go on, and now it's been 5 years. I mean,
Yep.
they didn't pick a Cheteshwar Pujara, who I have no doubt in my mind would have at least played 2 or 3 innings. He could have saved the game, if not won it for India. But and that's what Test cricket is about. Sometimes when you can't win it, you at least try to save it. And
Yeah,
I'm
and
sure Cheteshwar would have done it, but Virat
that was
Kohli
the
doesn't look
problem
like
with
it.
that was the issue with Gill, right? That he wasn't doing the number three job of at least making sure that if there is a breakthrough early, either Stark or Cummins taking a wicket,
Yeah,
you don't want a wicket falling immediately after that. You want somebody to hold the line and gradually turn the pressure back on the bowlers, which is what Pujara used to do. He just bat till the Australians were sick and tired of the sight of him. So that meant that one end you can't break through. You have to attack only at one end,
yeah.
and that tires the bowlers out.
Yeah,
But
and I think to be fair to Shubman, what he and Rishabh said in his interview in that series that was done by Friday Filmworks, Bando Mein Tha Dam. I don't know if you saw it in India,
no, I
Australia. It
didn't.
was that great chase, when they won the Test match, the last Test
Yeah,
match in 21. So in that, Rishabh says that on the evening before the final day's play, Shubman and Pant were actually talking about winning that game, and
yeah.
everyone else was talking about how we're going to save the game. So I understand their mindset, and that's really fantastic for them to have that mindset. But only fools don't change their minds. I mean, you got to have a different strategy. Maybe because they'd been there before and they thought that they continue playing the way they play positively and continue going, and they think they'll win games for India. But I think they had to strategize, and I think this comes from the top leadership, from the Rohit Sharmas, the Kohlis, from Gautam Gambhir.
And that brings it right back in a full circle to what the BCCI is now talking about, saying that if the seniors, as soon as the match is over, they leave the ground and go off on their own with their families and stuff, you're not having this interaction with all the players together and trying to figure out, what went wrong and why it went wrong and what you need to do and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which seems to be the undercurrent of what the BCCI is talking about when they say everybody travel together, everybody eat together, do all of this together.
And it's very important because imagine what are these youngsters working towards. Now, if you look at this team for the Champions Trophy, I mean, this is really the core of what India is going to play in the 27 World Cup, more or less. This is 60-70% of the team. And what is it? What culture are they going to take in that they can walk away anytime they want from the team? They can have their own little thing. They're all, making prima donnas all over again. And I mean, I find that really, really surprising that nobody's cracked the whip earlier. And I mean, talking of that, Gavaskar made that point about the support staff, which I think we must touch upon. Uh,
Right.
it's a struggle. That's why they've got. I'm not very happy
So the
about it that Sudhanshu
Sudhanshu
Kotak is coming. Because somebody was telling me in the team uh, that the problem is that can a Abhishek Nair walk up to Virat and tell him कि ये तेरा पैर यहाँ से घूम नहीं रहा है बराबर तेरा बैट नहीं आ रहा है नीचे. I mean, really, do you expect a Kohli to listen to Abhishek Nair and say, I don't, that visual, I'm struggling to even form that visual in my head that he's going to listen to him. Much like what Bob Woolmer used to tell me that when he was coaching, when he was leading the South African team as the coach, he would go to Cronje. He tried a few times, and Cronje would tell him like, "How many Test matches have you played?" And then he
Mm.
changed it. He started going to him and telling him that, I was with Graham Pollock once, and Barry used to tell me that if you kind of make this adjustment, it will work. And Cronje used to do it. That's, that's what a
Yeah.
coach and that's what leadership is all about. And that's not happening clearly over here.
So now you're going to have Abhishek and Sudhanshu Kotak talking to Kohli about how
Kohli
to play
about
outside the
bowling.
off stump. Yeah. It's,
That's
I don't
going to
know.
be
I mean,
funny.
surely we couldn't get a batting coach with that kind of reputation. It's not like we don't have them. There was some talk of, so there's also this news that floated in and floated out of the public consciousness that they were planning to have MS Dhoni as some kind of mentor for the team. And I'm wondering what exactly is going on. You've got two batting coaches now. You will have a coach and a mentor. If this happens, you'll have a coach, you'll have a mentor. You're basically just making the confusion more confounded, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're kind of on the cusp of time. So I want to put you on the spot. What do you think is going to happen in the Champions Trophy, as far as India is concerned? That is.
It's 50 overs. The talent is unbelievable. The Indian team is fantastic, but I think with leadership, big question. The the support staff is really not the best that we have. I think India will struggle. I think India will struggle in this. I think India
Okay,
is going to struggle.
I thought I was the only one.
No, I'm
Uh,
sure India is going to
because
struggle because imagine I want to go back to the support staff to talk about them. That you have Abhishek Nair, you have Moni Mokul, who never sits with the analyst. If you've seen
yeah,
the matches,
yeah,
you'll never see him sitting with the analyst. He's always inside. I mean, when the match is on, you're the bowling coach. Aren't you looking at some numbers, stats? Aren't you trying to do some homework on the go? I know it's up to the players to perform on the field, but you got an analyst sitting over there. I've never seen him sit with the analyst, and
yeah,
you got Ryan Tenduskate, who's a fielding. We already have somebody there for throwdowns. I don't know
yeah,
what Ryan is doing in that team. Again, like you said, touch of purple is good. It's a good. It also is synonymous with royalty, but this is pushing it a bit too much. And I'll tell you one more thing. One support staff at the Wankhede brought 35 bowlers into the nets. 35 players, and guess where they were from? They were from his academy.
okay, yeah.
So you understand there's vested interest going on, and I'm like, how is all this going unchecked? How is all this going unchecked that you're allowing all this to happen? And the pure focus needs to be on really getting this, your 15 together.
Okay, before I let you go, I have one more for you. This has been a season of seriously batshit comments. What is the most batshit comment you heard?
uh, it's only cricket, no? Otherwise, I would like to speak about the finance
Ah,
minister. We're talking only cricket, right?
cricket. Yeah, yeah. Leave Nirmala Sitaraman out of it for the time being. We'll get to her later.
uh, off the top of my head, why don't you go first?
Gautam Gambhir saying, I let the players do whatever they wanted for 6 months. Ab bahut ho gaya. I think, I mean, I listened to that and I was like, dude, have you even heard yourself? You're saying you just sat on your thumb for 6 months. Uh, and that's your this thing for being a coach. And to top it off, now the BCCI says his tenure will be reviewed after the Champions Trophy. What I don't get is how is a team's performance in a one-day scenario going to tell you whether he is good enough to take the Indian team on a test tour of England?
Yeah, really. And that's where I want to mention our very own VVS Lakshman. I mean, when he was in charge of the India team or whatever, you have to
Yeah,
see the spirit in the team. You have to see, you know, the way he takes the boys together. And, when you say he's a batting coach, even if you take him just as a batting coach, I mean, no
yeah,
questions asked. You can't question him. I don't think a Virat Kohli can also question him, or a Rohit Sharma will not
yes,
listen to him. Sitanshu Kotak and Abhishek Nair are not going to sort this
yeah.
this edgy problem that Kohli is suffering from. But
And it's
But
not just,
VVS is so clear. He knows, Prem, that what
yeah,
dirt there is. I met him. He came to the T20 World Cup for some event, the India-Pakistan game, and I asked him, and he was like, "No, I'm busy with my family. There's some stuff at home." But
yeah,
I am
yeah,
so sure he's too apolitical to get into this because he won't be able to he won't be able to walk this path. It'll be difficult for him.
yeah.
But if Indian cricket has to look good right now, I think there's no better candidate than VVS Lakshman to be the coach of this team. Even as a batting coach, mentor, get him on now.
Actually, one thing I would give the BCCI credit for is they did their best to get PVS on board.
Yeah.
And it's only after that that they opened up the thing and invited applications, and Gautam applied, and that was it. After that, nobody even bothered. But yeah, that would
But
be
from
my
in
take.
India, if you want anything done, if they want VVS Lakshman, you can get him. You know how things are in India today. If you want someone to do something, you
You
put in
can,
that
but
playbook.
just like you, I mean, without going into specific conversations or whatever, the sense I have is that VVS first Kumble, then he had a lot of input from Rahul. I don't think he wants to touch the current scenario with the current personnel, both, let's say, in the team and outside the team.
Yeah,
Uh, so, yeah. And Rahul had enough, which is why he quit,
yeah, we
which
do know.
started this whole, yeah, which
But I
started this
must tell
whole
you that he
thing.
did his job beautifully because he took a leaf out of Gary Kirsten's book. He
Yeah,
didn't interfere much with the players' preparations. He made sure the environment was right, which is exactly what Gary did.
yeah,
And I think they all learned from Greg Chappell that when you try to interfere with the Indian Titans and the superstars, you mess
yeah,
up as a coach. You've got to give them that space, keep building it. John Wright did it, and then
yeah,
Gary Kirsten perfected it, and Rahul just followed the playbook perfectly
yeah.
of how he should have. And I think
Which was
Gautam is not getting that. Gautam is not getting
no,
the
he's never been that guy. No, he's never been a consensus builder. He's never been the calm, gentle voice of reason. He has an ego that is equal to or exceeding the stars that you're talking about. I mean, this so
the
highly
Greg
unlikely
Chappell, the
that.
Desi Greg Chappell problem back again. I
Yeah,
had done this, I had done that.
yeah. Anyway, so it's been fun, and this is just the beginning. So as we go along, we'll keep adding to the mix.
Sure.
Last thoughts, Faisal?
Well, I think I think this Nawabi culture, the sooner it goes away from Indian cricket, the better. Because I think that too many people invested. Even today, I see on WhatsApp, whether we're winning, losing, whatever, the kind of emotion that's there in it. I think every Indian cricketer who's wearing the cap needs to just never forget that at the end of it. Might sound very philosophical, but I mean, you've got to know at the end of the day that in cricket really, really affects an Indian, like really, really affects an Indian. And I think to take things for granted like that and paint such a bad picture that you could come down to a diktat from the BCCI to do things like this, where you're talking about luggage and you're talking about staff, and it's just really bad. It's painting a really sad picture. Shouldn't have come out
Yeah,
first in the first place. If they had to do it, it shouldn't have come out. And now that it has, I can just imagine. Thank God we're not going to Australia anytime soon, because you can imagine the kind of sledging
the
that they would
media.
have to deal with. Oh my God, from the players as well
Yeah,
as from the media. So yeah, I really hope that somebody makes somebody really was steps in here. Maybe Gautam, maybe Rohit. I have a lot of belief in Rohit. I really like him, though I think his use by date is over now. I think he should walk away.
I like him as a guy. I like his laid back thing, but yeah, like you said, uh, use by date.
Yeah.
But with that, we'll call a stop to this, and I'll see you next week.
Next week. It's
And
been fun,
together
Prem.
we'll see. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, 13 years, man.
Great. Let's
Yeah,
get back into it. It's been fun.
yeah. See you.
Okay. Cheers.
And before we stop, we need to tell the audience subscribe, like, comment,
Yes.
ask questions, all of that, right? Yeah. So,
Also,
guys,
you
you
must
know
tell
what to
them that
do.
we'll keep getting some surprise stars and some cricketers
Yeah,
and some guests from time to time to add in, so you don't have to see our boring faces all the time.
correct. Absolutely. Hello. Take
Okay.
care and see you next week.
Okay. Cheers. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.